Dave, an unfamiliar feeling last week, first defeat in 8 league games for yourself. What, if anything, have you wanted to see in response in training this week?
Nothing really. I suppose you'll look at games and maybe think, what can we do better and why, and review and why did we lose the game, particular reasons. I suppose all the emotion of straight away after the game, the disappointment is always going to be there. That won't change. We've got to learn lessons from it, but a lot of them lessons aren't to do with what we did tactically or technically in the game. More around game management and how you maybe allow another team to manage a game by giving them a goal, a poor goal from our perspective, the first goal. But the reality of it is, with the chances that we create during that game, we should win the game. If you look at, and I know games aren't played through statistics and data, but if you offer me the pattern of that game over the next 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games for us, I'll absolutely take it, because we'll win more than the majority of them. So I could say that what I want to say is us take all our chances in training. That's the reality. That's not there. We know that has to happen when we play a game on a Saturday or a Tuesday. And especially when you come into this part of the season, you have to be clinical. You've got to be clinical ideally through the whole course of the season. But as you come into this bit, it probably feels a little bit more significant. We created some really good chances on Saturday. From our 18 shots, probably 5 or 6 of those chances are big chances. And to not score in the game and not get anything from the game on the back of those is obviously disappointing. So that's where we need to make sure that we're really clinical, we're really efficient. But like I say, if the pattern of the game and we create the chances that we did is the same on Saturday, I'll be okay with that.
13 games to go now. You obviously play Saturday, Tuesday this week. But beyond that, you obviously then have those 3 big games against Charlton, Bolton, Wrexham. That feels like a big period. Are you on track points-wise as to where you wanted to be heading into those 3 games in particular?
Honestly, I don't know. In terms of where we're at, I know where we're at. We look at, I suppose, a points total at the start of the season that historically have got teams into the playoffs, but it's probably a little bit different than where it potentially is. Again, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't dictate what we want to do. We're not looking at this next block of games going, we've got 3 important games coming up. This weekend's as important as anything. There'll be games going on round you that. So I think it's Birmingham, Wycombe, is it? It's Wrexham, Bolton, and Charlton, Leyton Orient. So from the top 7 teams, 6 of them all play against each other. We then play, as you say, Charlton, Bolton, and Wrexham over the coming weeks. But prior to that, we've got 2 really, really important games, and those games are further down the line. Those games will take care of themselves when they come along. What we want to do is make sure we go into those games in, I say, good form, but ideally on the back of 2 good performances and on the back of 2 wins. And then you deal with them when they come along. And that's where you've got to be. It's around, like I say, this time of the year for us. It always is about being consistent. We're not all of a sudden going to change what we do and start looking further ahead, because we've got a really, really tough test in front of us tomorrow.
Start team news for tomorrow then. Are there any fresh injury concerns this week heading into the weekend?
Not huge ones. We've got lads that are, I suppose, in the squad that are carrying little bits, and we have to manage that. We've still got some lads that were obviously brought in January that we're still trying to get up to speed. So that dynamic still remains. The long-term ones that we've had are getting closer, but probably will maybe affect things in the next few weeks rather than in the sort of immediate future. But nothing significant. Like I say, we're in a good place. But day by day and week by week, we're getting stronger in terms of the personnel we'll add back to our group. we want to make sure that we don't lose any. So if we have to make decisions around points where we may, I'll say rest, but not risk players for the sake of one game, then that might be something we need to look at, but that'll be on an individual basis, depending on, like say, the individual and depending on the circumstance that we're in.
We saw Fev's travel with the squad last week. Is he ready to be involved now?
Yeah, he's ready to be involved. Whether he is or not remains to be seen, but he's obviously been back training for a few weeks. He's worked hard, but again, another one that his involvement we need to be careful with in terms of when we introduce him and how long we introduce him for. But again, that's something that we'll make a decision with around what that looks like for this weekend, and certainly what that looks like over a period that has, like I say, the last sort of Saturday, Tuesday fixture of the season.
It's obviously been stop-start for him so far. It started so well back in August. He's had injuries. Obviously had that period where you had to utilise him at wing-back because of the injuries to Maka and Noyle. Coming back into the team now, is he almost able to use it as a fresh start?
I don't know. You probably need to ask him more than you ask me. From our perspective, it's just about getting him fit and making him available. He, I suppose, he came into the club injured. We obviously from his medical when we signed him, there were things that flagged up on his medical that needed sorting. He played last season at Colchester with an injury right the way through that he was unaware of. So there's a couple of bits that all of a sudden straight away put him a little bit behind the curve. So he had to sort of catch up. When you had that to move into a new part of the country, a new club, new expectation, slightly new position in terms of what we're asking to play. There's loads of different hurdles that are placed in your way. Like I say, he had impact from the bench certainly, and then picked up another injury in training the day after the game. In again, a nothing really incident where he struck a ball and had a shot and ends up a really significant injury for what the action was. That's kept him out for a long time, but he's worked hard and got himself back now where he's training and becomes available for us, which is all we all want.
No Callum Connolly, of course, tomorrow after his red card last week. I guess incidents like that show why you were so keen to bring someone like Brad Hills into the building in January. Yeah,
not so much incidents like that, because again, that incident's been spoken about. I'm not sure it was really deserving of what it got, but again, decisions that were made ultimately mean that you can't do anything about it, so you have to deal with it. But we'll have a squad regardless of incidents that needs to be strong enough to cover all eventualities, and Brad was brought into play. Brad was brought into play, whether that be alongside Callum, instead of Callum, alongside Fraser, alongside Ethan, whatever it might be, as another centre back, because obviously Hughesy went out to play some games in the window, so we needed to make sure we were covered in that position, and that has been the case. So we were never going to keep ourselves light. I said at the end of January, it was always a case of making sure we had every eventuality covered between now and the end of the season. Sometimes that's difficult because we've still got obviously Fraser out injured. We had Ethan ill last week, so different things will happen over the next 2 or 3 months. Hopefully our squad with the players we've got coming back allow us to cover them bases as best as possible and give ourselves the chance of staying in the position that we are.
How pleased are you with the way that Brad's settled in so far, particularly because he's already had to play in a few different roles along that back line?
Yeah, really pleased, but doesn't really... You hope, don't you, for them people to hit the ground running. We hope that with all the players that we brought in. There's some that wasn't the case. So Brad's experience of League Two last year at Accrington, and I suppose the experiences he's had in the Championship, albeit fleeting appearances at Norwich, will set him up in his head to be able to deal with what League One throws at him, if you like, and he's done that really, really well. Coming into a new team is always difficult, and like you say, coming into a back line that is pretty sound defensively and has been on a good run, might be a help, might be a hindrance, not too sure, but he's done what we hoped he would do, and we believe he'll only get better with the games that he plays. Hopefully that proves that we prove to be right again.
Moving on to Saturday then, Blackpool coming here unbeaten since Boxing Day in the league. A lot of draws in that sequence, but they feel like a different proposition maybe to the side that you faced in August.
Yeah, possibly. We played them in August after a couple of games, one game maybe, and it's hard then to tell what a game will look like. We were new to the division, so did they know less about us? They'll have, again, had the opportunity to see us for the last sort of 5 months and look at what we're doing. They've changed in terms of, obviously, manager coming in, changed slightly in terms of their shape, although they played a different shape on Saturday that was similar to what they did when we played them down there earlier in the season. So there's those questions that need to be answered. Personnel is pretty much the same. They probably lost the centre forward and brought another one in, but apart from that, not too dissimilar. They've had, like I say, they've had a decent run. They'll be again, draws are always tough because if they're, I suppose, the glue that hold winning runs together, and there's the odd draw in between a series of wins, then they can be great. If you look at the amount of draws they've had, I think they had 8 out of the last 10 prior to Saturday. You can look back and look at the points total that's available to play for, and the points total you pick up through draws, and there can be an argument to say you may as well have won 4 and lost 4 and be miles better off in terms of the points, but that'll have breeded confidence for them, and they'll come into the game as we are, looking to come up with a plan and come up with performance to try and win. There'll normally be a team that are in and around it that have a really good run at the back end of the season and push themselves towards them playoff positions, and I'm sure they're one of them ones that want that to be an eventuality for them. From our perspective, we're in and around it. We're going to make sure we stay in and around it and keep pushing forward.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cheers. Thank you.